Number 8.
Minnesota, 7-game winning streak. They are 7-1 in one-score games. I think a lot of the story here beyond Darnold is Kevin O'Connell, who they call the tunnel Sean McVay. I think Kevin O'Connell is superb. And their defense, Brian Flores, number 2 against the run, number 3 in takeaways. Brian Flores deserves another job. He does. Because I don't think their defensive personnel is nearly as good as their defensive production. I think it's fine. The production is great. I think Flores deserves another gig. Minnesota at 8.
Okay. Let's talk about this. I'm making this video Tuesday night after just hearing so many insane takes about the Minnesota Vikings throughout this day it makes my head want to literally explode. So I'm going to come out a little bit extra aggressive in this video. And this has nothing to do with Colin Cowherd, because I think Colin has been very fair to the Vikings and Sam Darnold and all of that. But the lack of respect for the Minnesota Vikings is really kind of insane. The fact that they're 12-2, and again, I don't live and die by the record. There's teams, I think the Bengals are still actually a good team, and they got a terrible record. So I do not live and die by head-to-head matchups, the record, etc. But the fact that this team is obviously 12-2, and with some great wins, and they've consistently been a great team, the sheer fact that people still doubt what or who the Minnesota Vikings are or can be is really reaching just peak absurdity at this point. Seriously, it really is just peak absurdity. How we can just say with such confidence that there's so many of these other teams ahead of them. On First Things First, I just did the clip where they had the whole conversation starting to believe that the Minnesota Vikings can, win the NFC. And it's just like, what have they been showing you throughout the entire season? What does this team need to do? And then again, they always fall back on Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold has been a great quarterback, a top quarterback this season. Okay? I mean, by every metric, let's just use the offensive rating of PFF, which again, I understand it's just basic stats, but these are the more advanced stats, more advanced analytics. And again, I don't live and die by these ratings either, but it's still information. It's still useful to look at. Sam Darnold is ranked 7th right now, 7th. And again, Derek Carr has an extra high rating, mainly because he played a few games that were so great and then was injured, didn't really play. I think he came back and played like a game or two, so his rating will be a little bit artificially high. But literally 84, okay? He's up there with Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Jaden Daniels, who obviously got off to an unbelievably hot start. And again, let's just do total touchdowns. Well, here we go. Sam Darnold, top 5. Let's do yards per attempt. Up, Sam Darnold, top 4. Let's do total yards. Up, Sam Darnold, top 6. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And then the Minnesota Vikings team as a whole, we already know they're great. Their offensive rating is top 5. Their points allowed, okay? They're in second. It's a three-way tie between the Broncos, the Eagles, and the Chargers, and then the Vikings. So technically they're ranked 4th, but it's also, they're just one behind. They're just, right below the three-way tie of there. So again, obviously awesome. They're ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs, the Pittsburgh Steelers, like all things we know. I mean, they put up points. I don't understand what more do people want from the Minnesota Vikings. They have the 2nd best record in the NFL. By one game, they're short of having the best record. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, seriously. I really, really don't understand. And some of these wins have aged even better as time has gone on. That Giants game, boom, book it. That Vikings versus 49ers, when the 49ers were actually kind of had a little bit going on with themselves, they actually had some momentum, still beat them. Again, beat them better than teams are beating them when they have even more injuries and more issues to deal with. Vikings versus Texans, boom, aged amazingly. The Vikings versus Packers, that score was a little bit misleading. And that game alone, again, Vikings were definitely clearly the better team, but Jordan Love came back, it was his first game back. So again, that's like a little bit more of a weirder game to kind of really unpack too much. Vikings versus Jets, we obviously know that was an incredibly simple and easy game. Again, that score hardly actually tells the whole story. Vikings versus Lions, that was a game of millimeters. I went through the notes, I went through all of it, and I showed you guys that it was like it was literally millimeter difference. It was just one little play here, one extra yard there, and the Vikings win that game. But the Vikings came out hot. That was a great game. And look what the Lions had been doing to all other teams. Everybody, even if we just want to say, well, you know what, the Lions proved to be the better team. Okay, well, they proved to be 2 points better than and everyone before. And this is at the time when the Lions were completely healthy and everyone was saying that they're so dominant, they're so powerful, they're unstoppable. Well, it seems like the Vikings did a pretty good job against them. Okay? The Vikings-Rams game, we already know how that game ended, and that was kind of a mess of a refereeing. But again, credit to the Rams. They won. They were actually a good team. They had Sean, that's when they finally got their weapons back, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, etc. Vikings-Colts took care of them. Vikings-Jags, that was their one kind of catch game. That was a little awkward and weird, but they still won. They still took care of it. Vikings-Titans took care of it. Vikings-Bears took care of them. And again, that score is also incredibly misleading. We know the Vikings had the Bears beat the whole time. Vikings-Cardinals, again, a close game, but still Vikings took care of it, did what needed to be done. Vikings roll the Falcons, great win, and of course they just beat the Bears. So again, it's not like any of these games that we're really looking at where we're like, the Vikings were really fortunate. They had a blocked field goal, and then, what about that play? And what about this? And what about that? They don't have that. They have a couple close wins, like every single team. Again, if we want to say how amazing the Lions are, well, then the Lions technically eked out a win against the Vikings, and they lost to the Buccaneers, right? I mean, and they just gave up 1,000,000 points to the Bills. So it's just like the inconsistent way we kind of want to evaluate individual teams is kind of absurd. And especially when we know the playmakers and the dudes that the Vikings have. I mean, they got the great offensive head coach. They got the great defensive coordinator. They got the weapons on offense. They got the big-time wide receivers. They got a bully running back who's able to, really pick it up when need be. They got the big-bodied, reliable tight end. They got that defense playing connected as a unit. So I don't understand. And what I was thinking about this, and I've said this already a little bit before, but I was really thinking about it more and more, and it was just really just eating at me. Because there's so much doubt around the Minnesota Vikings. And it drives me crazy because, again, it is a long shot to win the Super Bowl for any team. Every single team out there has very small chances to win the Super Bowl. Okay, it's more likely not to happen than it will. So again, statistically, from an odds perspective, it is more likely that the Vikings will not win the Super Bowl. That's just, again, sorry to break the news to you. If you don't know that, I don't know what to tell you. And the problem is that they will then use that if they don't, as to be like, see, they weren't that good. That's why they were only ranked 8. That's why they're only 10. That's why they're not even a top 10 team. I never really thought they could win the NFC. And it's just like, that's just nonsense. That's just nonsense. And it's so frustrating because, again, it's a safe bet. It's always a more safe bet to doubt a team because you're going to be right more often than not because there could only be one winner. There's only one Super Bowl winner. So it's such a safer take to doubt a team. And then when the chances of them losing is high, you just get to say, see, yeah, they surprised me a bit, but I never thought that they could win. It's a safer take. And sometimes that is the appropriate take. There's teams that I doubt. There's plenty of teams that I doubt. But it's usually based off of something like a stronger conviction or me admitting I don't really know what to make about this team. But sometimes you have certain takes like this. A team that's 12-2, right? It's a safer take when a team is 12-2 like this to doubt them because actually, again, you then get to be like, yeah, I'm not buying into them. It makes you sound smarter. Yo, yeah, they're 12-2. They might be the number 1 seed. I'm not buying it. It sounds smarter. Whereas if you take the team that does have the best record or whatever, who's 1, 2, or 3 seed, and you say this team's great, well, that's kind of basic, right? So it makes you sound smarter. No one sounds smart for saying, I think that the Eagles or the Chiefs were in the Lions before they got injured, saying that they're a great team. No one was like, are you serious? No one thinks that sounds smart because, yeah, they obviously keep winning. They obviously have this ranked defense, this ranked offense, like, et cetera, et cetera. They got Josh Allen, they got Mahomes, they got Andy, they got whoever. It's easy. But no, if you doubt the Vikings, yeah, they're 12-2, but I don't know about them. That's like, oh yeah, you're analytical, you're smart, you know stuff, you see things that other people don't see. Yeah, it may look like they're a great team, they may look like they have a good offense, but I can see the reality, I can see through the illusion. It's like, okay. And again, if it's based off of reality, because again, I have some doubts around the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, I believe the Kansas City Chiefs can win the AFC. Even though I have doubts about them, I still consider them a top 4, top 5 team. Not top 4, not top 5, definitely top 4. 5 would be too low. I still say that they can win a Super Bowl. I don't question it. I have questions about the team as a whole, but I don't want to question their ability. And for good reason, when we look and unpack all those games and the issues that they've had, you can't do that for the Minnesota Vikings. You can't do that. So these Minnesota Vikings takes are just insane. Because again, even just on first things first. And this is why I'm coming out all fired up too. Because they were saying like, oh, well, Sam Darnold's on perpetual pumpkin watch. And it's just absurd at this point. And so now if he does throw an interception, like we've seen every single quarterback do, especially in the playoffs. Again, Patrick Mahomes, 5 interceptions in 4 Super Bowls. One of my favorite stats to say out loud. They'll say, Sam Darnold went in. Look what he did. He turned the ball over. Okay, sure. Whatever you say. I just want to have accurate discussions about some of these teams. And I think a part of it is, sorry to break the news to you, Minnesota Vikings fans, you're not the most popular team. It's why the shows don't open with them. It's why First Things First has probably did 5 Minnesota Vikings clips over the entire year so far. I mean, seriously, think about it. Even I jump on NFL Live, Get Up. Like, Colin has done the most about the Vikings, honestly. And that's because we know he's very high on Sam Darnold. And again, credit to Colin. Because if it wasn't really for Colin talking about the Minnesota Vikings, I don't know who would. It's very difficult. It's brutal to get content on them. And so they're just not that popular. They don't get deep analysis. And so then we get like a lot of these random bootleg takes. And again, I want to be very clear. Very, very, very clear. That has nothing to do with Colin. Like I said, I'm praising Colin for his coverage. His opinion that them being 8 is fine. That is just his opinion. That's not him being a hater. That's not him being biased. It's not him being, uneducated or trying to be strategic with that. Like, I don't think that's Colin's MO at all. So I can't emphasize that enough. I think Colin has had great conversations around the Vikings. Although, even though he's been so high on Sam Darnold, he definitely doubted Sam. And now he's back to being like, oh, I don't know. Maybe the Vikings should keep Sam. This energy that I'm bringing is really coming from just all of the Vikings takes as a whole. I'm just using this clip as like the jumping off point. Not to mention, like I said, this day, I'm recording this Tuesday night after just getting just inundated with just insane take after insane take after insane take for the Vikings at the top, and then a couple other teams and a couple other specific topics that I'm just like, I don't even know what to do, man. One time I threw my pen because I'm just like, this is crazy. It's all these crazy takes that made me want to start this channel in the first place. And it's not even so much to be like, I'm right, you're wrong. I know stuff, you don't know stuff. It's just the conversations. And actually, that's what I love about Colin, because he talked about this. He goes, I don't care if I'm right or wrong. I just want to have the right conversations. He said that in a random podcast clip with Julian Edelman. I think it was Julian Edelman. And I love that. Because again, it's not a matter of being right or wrong. in a lot of these takes, because we will never know should the Minnesota Vikings be ranked 2 or 8, 7 or 3. There's no way to know. That is the foundation of what makes sports talk and just sports in general just amazing, because there is no actual technically right or wrong answer. We have no idea. It's impossible to really accurately know. So that's why, to me, it's always like, well, how are we having the conversation? What points are we bringing up? When you bring up doubt, what is the logic behind the doubt? If you bring in belief, what is the logic behind the belief? And I've used this reference as an example before. Like, I am a very logical person. Like, logic is very important to me. And when I'm talking to my close friend, my best friend, I'll be like, this is the conclusion that I reached. Are there any flaws in my logic? Like, this is how I got here. Am I missing something? Is my logic right in here? And so it's not even a matter of like, is this conclusion right or wrong? But at least does the logic make sense? Because you'll never know, especially when you're trying to navigate life. It's like, okay, should I move to Minnesota or should I move to Japan? It might not be a right or wrong answer, but it's like, well, logically, I'm thinking, well, Minnesota, it's still in the U.S. I'm going to get a good job there. It's like, you're just trying to unpack the logic. I like the people there. I like the Twin Cities. Trying to win some fans over from dropping some Minnesota Vikings love. I don't have a lot of Japanese subscribers on here, so, it's a pretty easy example. Although I'm sure Japan would be pretty legit. I'd be like, nah, I'll just keep it to myself. But anyway, Minnesota. I just don't know what to tell y'all. You guys got to start rallying a larger, more ferocious fan base. Okay, you guys need to start to gather some more power. You got to watch these videos. You give it a thumbs up. I don't really like you got to do something, man. We got to start to have better conversations around this team, because they check all the boxes. They check the boxes. So I don't understand. I don't understand why the Vikings are on the outside looking in on so many takes. Doesn't make sense. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think? For some reason, I almost said the Denver Broncos. What do you guys all think about the Denver Broncos? What do you all think about the Minnesota Vikings? Do you think this is a fair ranking? And what has been your experience watching the media's attention throughout this season, honestly? The doubt in the beginning makes total sense. I can totally understand it. But as the season has progressed, like, how has it felt that the Minnesota Vikings have I mean, look at that. The Vikings were actually, I just realized this, they were ranked 6th. They've actually gone backwards now. I can't believe I just realized it at the end of this clip. They actually went backwards. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I'm still discovering crazy takes. I still feel like I'm in crazy land right now. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. I feel like a local Minnesota Vikings like DJ or something. Did you hear what they're talking about in the national media? Nobody believes in us. That's how they talk, I assume. But let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.